Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Afghanistan has declared a national day of mourning after more than 100 people were killed in a suicide attack in the capital, Kabul, Saturday. The Taliban's claimed responsibility in which the attack in which militants detonated an ambulance packed with explosives in the middle of a crowded street. More than 235 people were wounded. This is Samim and Mohammed, who each own small shops near the site of the attack.
Every day there is fear of attacks here, and living has become very dangerous to everyone. It's not safe to live in Afghanistan anymore.
It was a really dangerous blast, and people were running everywhere. Some had received injuries on their head and some on their hand, and everyone was shocked. Most of them were wounded by broken glass.
Meanwhile, in a separate attack today, 11 Afghan soldiers were killed after ISIS militants stormed an Afghan army base in Kabul. After headlines, will go to Kabul, Afghanistan for the latest on the attacks and today's day of mourning. The entire board of directors of USA Gymnastics is resigning after team doctor Larry Nassar was sentenced up to 175 years in prison for sexually assaulting and abusing more than 160 young female athletes, including Olympic gold medalists, under the guise of providing medical treatment. Michigan State University athletic director Mark Hollis has also announced he's retiring only days after the president of Michigan State, Lou Anna Simon, resigned amidst mounting questions about whether the university ignored Dr. Nassar's abuse. Nassar worked at Michigan State from 1997 to 2016. We'll have more on Dr. Larry Nassar's abuse, which is being described as the worst sexual abuse scandal in U.S. sports history, later in the broadcast, as the Michigan Attorney General has launched an investigation. President Trump is expected to ask for $716 billion for military spending in the 2019 budget, a major increase over recent years. The proposed increase comes after Defense Secretary James Mattis unveiled a new military strategy that focuses on countering and potentially fighting China and Russia. Meanwhile, the fitness tracking company Strava has inadvertently revealed highly sensitive U.S. information about secret military bases when it published maps of the running and exercise routes of its users. The global heat maps show the running routes of soldiers in and around military bases, including in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, and Djibouti. While some of the bases were already known, others, such as a small compound to the southwest of the U.S. military base, Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, appear to be undisclosed black sites. Demonstrators rallied outside the White House Saturday to protest President Trump's repeated efforts to ban refugees and citizens from some majority Muslim nations from entering the United States. The protesters also decried President Trump's efforts to roll back protections for immigrants, women, people of color, and LGBT people throughout his first year in office. In more news from Washington, D.C., lawmakers are battling over whether to classify a 4-page document written by the California Congress member Devin Nunes, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, in which he claims that under the Obama administration, the FBI surveilled the Trump campaign. The House Intelligence Committee may vote to declassify the memo as early as today. Democratic lawmakers are accusing Nunes of trying to derail and undermine Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into the Trump campaign and trying to release the document. In Honduras, U.S.-backed President Juan Orlando Hernández was inaugurated for a second term Saturday amidst massive protests denouncing widespread alleged voter fraud in the November 26 election. This is Mario Armendariz, one of the protesters.
Facing the army and Juan Orlando's murderous police, facing the narco dictatorship that is being installed in our country, also protesting for the 39 dead comrades who were murdered for the simple act of protesting, for demanding the right to vote, which we went and cast our vote, and we worked and defeated the narco dictator who had all the state's money, yet we defeated him, and he is taking power by relying on the armed forces and the police.
The Honduran military has killed dozens of protesters since the contested election on November 26th. In Albania, 10,000 protesters poured into the streets Saturday to demand the resignation of the Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama over accusations of corruption and links to organized crime. Meanwhile, in Russia, opponents of Russian President Vladimir Putin held protests in cities across Russia, demanding a boycott of the upcoming presidential election, which they say is rigged. At least 180 protesters were arrested, including Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. In Germany, more than 10,000 people took to the streets of Cologne Saturday to protest the Turkish military bombing and ground offensive against the Kurdish city of Afrin in northwestern Syria. Protesters also rallied in Paris over the weekend to denounce the Turkish military offensive in Afrin. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the offensive has killed at least 51 civilians, including 5 children from the same family. In New Jersey, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, known as ICE, have detained 2 fathers as they were dropping their children off at school. On Thursday, Roby Sanger was detained by ICE after dropping his 2 daughters off at school, while GUNAWAN LIEM was detained after he dropped his daughter off at the school bus stop. A third man, Harry PANGEMANAN, has taken sanctuary at the Reformed Church of Highland Park in New Jersey after he says he saw undercover ICE agents waiting outside his home as he was preparing to drive his daughter to school. All 3 immigrants are originally from Indonesia. Meanwhile, a number of immigrant rights activists will be attending President Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday at the invitation of progressive lawmakers. Among those attending, Cesar Espinosa, immigrant rights activist in Houston, Texas, and Amy Gottlieb. She is an immigration lawyer and the wife of detained New York City immigrants' rights leader Ravi Ragbir. She'll be accompanying Congressmember Nydia Velázquez. And Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has announced she will not be attending the State of the Union. She's been a vocal critic of President Trump. The Justice Department seeking to add a question about whether people are U.S. citizens to the U.S. 2020 census. Immigrant rights advocates have slammed the move, saying it'll cause millions of people not to participate in the census and therefore further limit government services and political representation in majority immigrant communities. The longtime investigative journalist Robert Parry has died at the age of 68. As a reporter at the Associated Press in the 80s, he helped expose how the Reagan administration was secretly sending arms to Iran in what became known as the Iran-Contra scandal. Bob Parry also revealed the role of the U.S.-backed Nicaraguan Contras in drug trafficking here in the United States.
The Contras became involved in drug trafficking in the 1980s. It was done partly to help raise money for themselves. They were in a very unique position, working with the United States government on one side and then also becoming a way for South American drug dealers to move their supplies, their material, their contraband up into the United States. So because the Contras became an intermediary for that, they also had some protection because they were working for the U.S. government, and the U.S. government was very hesitant to blow the whistle on them.
That's Robert Parry speaking on Democracy Now! In 2006. Since 1996, Parry ran the news website consortiumnews.com. In 2015, he received the I.F. Stone Medal for Journalistic Independence from the Nieman Foundation. And the Time's Up and Me Too movements took center stage at Sunday night's Grammy Awards. Among the inspiring speakers was Cuban-Mexican singer Camila Cabello, who spoke about growing up as an immigrant and demanded justice for dreamers.
Tonight, in this room full of music's dreamers, we remember that this country was built by dreamers, for dreamers, chasing the American dream.
Another one of the most powerful speeches came from singer Janelle Monáe.
Tonight, I am proud to stand in solidarity as not just an artist, but a young woman with my fellow sisters in this room who make up the music industry. Artists, writers, assistants, publicists, CEOs, producers, engineers, and women from all sectors of the business. We are also daughters, wives, mothers, sisters, and human beings. We come in peace, but we mean business. And to those who would dare try and silence us, we offer you 2 words: time's up.
That's singer Janelle Monáe speaking at Sunday night's Grammy Awards. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.